Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Horror Mine, where we talk about mysteries, thrillers, and holiday horror movies. My name is Vic Shy, and happy holidays, everyone! I truly hope that you are all having a wonderful holiday season. In this video, I'll be going over the 2009 Japanese horror film Ju-on White Ghost, which conveniently happens to be a Christmas movie.
Merry Christmas!
Along with Ju-on Black Ghost, the film was released in 2009 to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Ju-on. Both films tell the story of a different curse, separate from the already established Saeki curse from the main films. While this film may not have Kayako Saeki in it, it does have a ghostly grandma holding a basketball as a weapon, so yeah, I'll be going over the events that take place throughout the film, explaining the ending and how it connects to Ju-on Black Ghost. We are so close to having covered every single Ju-on film on the channel, and I truly appreciate everyone tuning in. But without further ado, sit back and relax and join me as we explore the cursed and oddly festive world in Ju-on White Ghost. Our movie begins by giving us the fine print we all know and love. When someone dies in the grip of a powerful rage, a curse is born. It gathers in that place of death and becomes a stain upon that place. Those who encounter it die and a new curse is born. Socrates? Probably. During the opening credits, we see several settings integral to the story. The cursed house previously seen in Ju-on Black Ghost, a school hallway, a taxi cab, and a police records room. We then see a dead man hanging from a tree. On the ground is a tape recorder and a bag with something moving inside. Our first chapter is titled Fumiya, but should be titled Santa. That's who the delivery man is dressed as because this is a Ju-on Christmas movie. The young man named Fumiya is delivering a cake to the Isobe household. This is the former Matsuoka household from Ju-on Black Ghost, where the Matsuoka family were brutally murdered by the Black Ghost. The house is now cursed and not even Santa can escape his fate. Determined to deliver the cake and spread the holiday joy, Fumiya enters the home. He is greeted by a woman who tells him she will be right there. However, he realizes something isn't quite right when the woman repeats the exact same thing.
すぐ行きますから。
He is drawn into the kitchen by a loud crash but doesn't see the woman. He goes into the bathroom and sees residue in the bathtub as if a fire was lit there. He suddenly sees a little girl walking past him and follows her upstairs. To his horror, he finds the girl's decapitated body lying on the bed. He again hears the woman saying the same thing from the kitchen and finds her body stabbed to death inside. He then encounters the film's main antagonist, an old woman holding a basketball. The next chapter, titled Kashiwagi, follows the taxi driver who briefly appeared in Ju-on Black Ghost. Though we never saw his face, we know it's the same taxi driver because of the cab's license plate. Hajime Kashiwagi is driving his young daughter Akane to school. Before leaving, she discovers a weird gooey substance in the back seat. He attempts to wipe it off, but it's a real gooey mess. He receives a message from his dispatcher saying the police want to speak to him about a customer he drove this morning. He then discovers a bag in his back seat containing the ghostly head of a little girl and is dragged to his death. The next chapter follows Akane 7 years into the future. Akane is asked by two of her friends, Mayumi and Yuka, to play Kokuri-san, a Japanese version of the Western Ouija board. The coin begins moving on its own and spells out the name Mirai. This causes Akane to run out of the classroom, terrified. While Mayumi goes back into the classroom, Yuka is killed by the ghost of an NBA All-Star. The next chapter introduces us to the Isobe family, who move into the cursed Matsuoka house. The family consists of husband and wife Kentaro and Miho, their son Atsushi, his sister Junko, her young daughter Mirai, and grandma Haru, who isn't all there mentally because of her age. While looking inside the kitchen, Miho finds a crumbled picture of the Matsuoka family, and that would definitely be my cue to get the hell out of there. Atsushi is lured into a room with a mirror and his body seemingly seemingly becomes possessed while his soul becomes stuck inside of the mirror. The next chapter is titled Chiho and shows Fumiya after discovering the dead bodies of the Isobe family. He repeats the phrase, "I'll be right there," until his girlfriend Chiho arrives at the police station. Back in their apartment, Chiho brings out a lovely cake and gives him a present because this is a Christmas movie.
Merry Christmas.
Fumiya is still traumatized by what he saw and throws up when he sees Chiho cutting the cake. She attempts to comfort him but suddenly turns into the basketball ghost. As the ghost charges at him with the basketball, he holds up the cake knife in self-defense instead of just dunking on her. However, he has unknowingly stabbed Chiho in the neck. Overcome with fear and influenced by the curse, he yanks the knife out of her throat and begins stabbing her multiple times, turning a pretty festive affair into a very tragic one. The next chapter, titled Mirai, serves as a flashback from Akane's point of view to events that occurred 7 years ago. We learn that Akane and Mirai were best friends in their youth. Mirai says she got rid of a fever thanks to a good luck charm that Akane let her borrow. Grandma Haru walks into the room holding a basketball, which reveals that she is the unreal seen throughout the film. Grandma Haru doesn't seem to like Akane, possibly sensing that she is spiritually sensitive. Mirai reveals that her uncle Atsushi has been sexually abusing her ever since they moved into the new home. This is undoubtedly due to his possession, as they appeared to have a great relationship before moving into the home. Atsushi overhears their conversation and throws Akane out of the house.
I release you from my service.
As he drags Mirai upstairs, she calls out to Grandma Haru, who seems unaware of what's taking place and does nothing. Mirai cries out to Akane from her bedroom window, but Akane runs off. Now alone with her possessed uncle, Mirai clings onto the good luck charm, knowing she is about to be sexually abused. Grandma Haru suddenly walks in and forces Atsushi to grope her instead. He pushes her onto the bed and runs out of the room. Yeah, this is definitely one of the weirder Ju-on movies. We also get a random cameo from Toshio Saeki. The next chapter is titled Yasukawa and takes place inside of the police station. A detective named Kawabata comes across a black cassette tape that begins playing on its own. Detective Yasukawa walks into the room, but Kawabata doesn't seem to notice him. He plays the tape where the phrase, "I'll be right there," is repeated over and over.
何聞いてんだ
Detective Yasukawa quickly grabs the tape and smashes it on the ground, seemingly waking Kawabata from a trance. We learn that the tape was recorded by a man who murdered his entire family 7 years ago. He hanged himself after the crime and recorded the tape before his death. One of the detectives working on the case also hanged himself in his home after transcribing the tape. Yasukawa says that at the time, the tape had the voice of a child on it. He tried to get rid of the tape 7 years ago and doesn't know how it got back here. He now plans on burning the tape and tells Kawabata not to get involved in the case. He of course does the exact opposite of what he was told and begins to research the murder case from 7 years ago. He reads a newspaper which reveals that Atsushi was the one who massacred his entire family. The cursed tape suddenly appears right in front of him and presumably kills him off screen. The final chapter is titled Atsushi and shows the events of the Isobe family massacre, which ultimately created a new Ju-on. This chapter shows us that the Isobe family was pretty dysfunctional. Kentaro has some pretty high expectations of Atsushi, which come crashing down when he finds out that his son failed his school exam. Junko brings up the fact that Miho is not their real mother, and she then gets called out for getting pregnant with Mirai at 16. This sounds like a conversation y'all should be having on Dr. Phil. A calendar in Atsushi's room reveals that the events are taking place in the year 2002. That night, Atsushi brutally kills everyone in his family. He starts by killing his father with a single blow to the head using a metal bat. He chokes Grandma Haru with a rope around her neck, which is why her onryo makes the death rattle. She also happened to be embracing a basketball at the time of her death, so there you go. Junko calls Miho to go check on Haru, which is when she replies,
すぐ行きますから
This is the moment played on repeat when Fumiya enters the home the next day. Atsushi stabs Miho with a knife in the kitchen and burns Junko inside of the bathtub. The final murder is tragically the most gruesome. Atsushi heads to Mirai's room and proceeds to saw off her head. She tragically dies while holding the good luck charm given to her by Akane. The next morning, he takes a taxi ride from Hajime Kashiwagi and crosses paths with Fumiya on his way to deliver the cake to their house. Mirai's head is inside the bag, which is emitting the bodily fluid that Akane later finds on her bag. He heads to an isolated spot in the woods and turns on his tape recorder. Before hanging himself, he repeatedly says, "I'll be right there." Mirai's spirit responds from inside of the bag saying,
早く来て。怖いから。
He apologizes to her before hanging himself and the tape stops recording. This creates an entirely new Ju-on and turns the tape into an extension of the curse. Now, people can not only get cursed from stepping foot inside of the house, but from listening to the cursed tape as well, a concept similar to that of the cursed videotape from the Ring series. But what did Atsushi mean when he said, "I'll be right there"? I don't speak Japanese and the translated subtitles may be a bit off. However, my theory is that he is referencing what Fuki told Mariko over the phone in Ju-on Black Ghost.
今から行くから待っててね。
This is what a possessed Fuki tells Mariko right before murdering her and her family, creating the Ju-on which would later go on to possess Atsushi. All because one twin wouldn't allow the other to be born. Selfish man. 7 years later, Akane is visited by the spirit of her late best friend, Mirai. She apologizes for running away and not helping her when her uncle sexually abused her. Instead of killing Akane, Mirai returns the good luck charm and disappears, showing that her spirit isn't angry, she's just disappointed. In the film's final scene, Akane holds the good luck charm, realizing just how bad of a friend she is, as the movie ends. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Ju-on the Christmas Special, or White Ghost if you want to be specific. This was a very decent spin-off that I thoroughly enjoyed for what it was. It definitely wasn't scary, which kinda defeats the purpose, but the spirit of the NBA All-Star Grandma was absolutely hilarious. Although Takashi Shimizu's absence was noticeable, Ju-on White Ghost told a pretty solid narrative combined with Black Ghost. The spin-off films are definitely the weaker entries in the Ju-on franchise, but are welcome additions nonetheless. But as always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you all for tuning in, and I cannot wait to see y'all right back here in the Horror Mine. Y'all stick around, and happy holidays.